Hi, this is the second video showing the MyGore customer portal. Um, the first video we covered login, registration, profile. The second video we're going to skip over that and look at the Do It Online and My Forms area. So I'm going to go ahead and log in. I'll just use the login that I created in the earlier video. Bear with me one moment. Okay, so I'm logged in and you can see in the header I've got my initial showing and my profile and whatnot as we covered earlier. In the main navigation bar towards the top of the page, we've got My Forms. Now that will only show once you're logged in. Until then you don't see it. So I'll go through Do It Online, My Forms and Bills and Payments. Do It Online is our main landing area where all our different forms and services are presented. And they're presented organized by category. So I scroll down a bit, you can see we've got 11 categories. And there's a description with each one. If I drill into a particular category, such as alcohol, then there's a list of application forms to do with alcohol, again with descriptions, and we've got a My Forms on the left as well. Now the My Forms on the left will arrive at the same place as the My Forms that is available in the header. The difference is the links within each category will just filter down to only show any forms related to that category. So I won't go into all the different categories, but what I want to do is go through filling in a form and submitting it and seeing how that appears in the My Forms area. So I'm going to choose symmetries and I'm doing a application for an interment, and I won't worry too much about what the actual form is and what the fields I'm filling out. I'm just going to go through this quite quickly. So you can see as they go through the form, any step that I've completed goes to a green tick. The one I'm on is blue with a little pencil icon, and grey if I haven't visited it yet. So we know where we're up to applicant. You can also see it's filled in the name, email, phone number, and postal address based on my user profile. So that's picked up from the data that I entered on the registration form. So that's it's a benefit for customers. They don't have to fill things in that we already know about them. So I'm just going to go continue. As we navigate through, you can see we've got back and continue at the bottom. Up the top, there's a left and right arrow that do the same function. Cancel will close the form and throw away anything that they've done. There's a warning before that happens. And save will save a draft copy of the form. So the form is in a draft state until I get to the end of it and submit it to council. And you'll see that. So if I partially fill this in, if I type in the details of the deceased, and then I click save, it'll give me a message saying that it's been saved. That's great. But now I could log out, shut down my computer, come back the next day, log back in, and if I go to My Forms, you'll see there's a draft area, and any forms that are partly done will show in this draft section. So we can see what it is, we can see the reference number, we've got a little draft badge on it. There's a ... button there that gives me some things I can do. I can carry on where I was. I can create a duplicate, so sometimes you want to create a copy of a form. Any duplicates that get created are also in draft, and I can delete it, which is the same as the cancel option that we looked at earlier. I can click on this whole card or the view button. That will drill in The drilling into a draft doesn't offer too many different options. We've still got our duplicate, delete, continue, but it has this sharing option here, and sharing is where I want more. I want someone to help me fill in the application form, so we can set up multiple logins to access the same form. So currently, I'm the owner. There's my details there, but I can invite someone else. So I can click on invite. I can type in a new email address. And a message to the person receiving the email. And then I can decide what permissions this person that I'm inviting to have access will have. So read is a minimum, so that means they can view it. But if you want them to help you fill in the form, you would tick the update option as well, so then they can fill in details on the form while it's in draft. But they can't submit the form if they have update. They have to have this submit permission in order to be able to submit. There's a cancel permission. Manage files is about being able to upload files after it's submitted, which sometimes you want to do to provide more information to council. And the manage access means that they can control permissions for other people, so they can on invite to a third person potentially. Typically, you're just going to want them to see it and possibly update it. So I'm going to tick those two, and I'm going to click share. And now we can see in this sharing table, there's a second person. The status is pending, so they will have received an email invite, but they haven't actioned it yet. And we can remove, we can change their permissions at any time, we can resend the invitation. So what that will have done is send an email to my email address, and I'll just drag that email across so you can see it. Again, the wording can be configured, but what we're doing here is saying that this application form has been shared with you, and then to gain access to it, you have a link to click, and then we've also got the message here that I typed into the sharing. If I click the link, it'll take me through the same login step that we looked at in the first video. If they're a new user, they would have to register for the first time, but after having either logged in or registered, there's a code in this link that gets passed all the way through, so that when they eventually have logged in, they will see the same form in their My Forms. So that's how we have co-applicants or co-authors of applications. All right, so I'm just going to go ahead and continue my application form. So again, this doesn't have to be all the same session. The benefit of having a login and saving is that I can come back at any time in a different session and just pick up where I left off, which is exactly what I'm doing. I'm going to go through this fairly quickly. Most of the fields are not mandatory, luckily. Next of kin is mandatory. And so on. Right, so I've got through filling in all the details of the form. It's now telling me what my fees are. So you may not have this step if the application doesn't require a payment, or it's paid in arrears at a later date. But in this case, we're saying, yep, we've calculated your fees and please pay your money. So I could be paying that in person at council or via internet banking, but I can also pay immediately using a credit card or debit card. So there are other options like Poly. If you choose credit or debit card, then this is Telecom Payment Gateway, so it's a separate system. It's fully PCI compliant. Card details are not exposed anywhere they shouldn't be. I'm just putting in a test card number. And you'll also see that there's a service fee of $33, so there's a percentage fee that gets applied, which customers warned about in advance. That's covering bank fees largely and doesn't go to council. So that's successfully made. It said, thanks, we've got your application, here's your reference number, here's what happened in terms of your payment. And we will have sent an email as well with details of the application and also an invoice receipt. But if I go to the My Forms area, so you'll see it's disappeared from draft, the application that I'm working on, because I've submitted it. And we've got two other statuses that we filter by here. There's open forms and there's closed. Now, whether it's open or closed depends on the status. So this has gone into a status of vetting. The statuses are configurable per form, so they might vary, but typically any application that's going through processing will have a vetting or processing, or we might even just say submitted. Once it's been fully processed and approved or declined or whatever has happened to it, it'll go into a final status, which might be, say, granted or approved or whatever. At that point, that will move it into the closed area. So closed will show a history of things over time that have been dealt with and are complete. Open should be the ones that are currently in processing, so the ones that the customer's likely to be interested in. By the way, over on the right here, we've got a couple of icons. That just toggles between a list view, where all applications just show in a table, and this card view. The card view is the default. It's a bit more mobile friendly because you can sort of tap anywhere in the card with your finger, and a bit more modern. The list view might be useful more on a PC or a notebook, and useful often for companies that might have lots of applications, if you're a building company or so on. Typically, most people will be fine with this view. Right, so if I drill into this application that's been submitted and is now in vetting, so you'll see it's got a few more options. We've got a summary page. This can have more details about the application. That's a configurable choice, and it will show milestones as well. So we'll show what date it was created, when it was submitted to council, and any status changes we'll show here as well. So we can see it's gone into vetting on this date. In the dot menu, we've only got duplicate. That can be quite handy if you've got something like an event permit that's for an annual event and it doesn't change too much year on year. A customer might come in, find last year's permit application and go duplicate, and then they've got a new draft that they can save a bit of time on because most of the data will already be filled out. Down the left here, we've got our sort of main menu for the detail of this form. So attachments will show any files. Now it might be that the customer has uploaded a file as part of the form. So a lot of forms require files to be attached with them. I can also upload new files here. So there's an upload file button. Maybe council have asked me to supply some more details. Maybe I've been asked to supply a death certificate, and you can click the browse button, or as I'm going to do, you can find a suitable file and just drag it into that area. It will upload the file, it will virus scan it, tell the user whether it's successful or if there was an error, if there was a virus, and then you can just click OK, and then that will show here. So you can see at the top here, there's a From Council heading at the top of each of these files, but the one I just uploaded there isn't. So you can tell which files are attached by the council and which were attached by the customer. In terms of the two council files, we've got a copy of the submitted form. So by default, any application form that you fill in online will get a PDF created, capturing all the, showing all the data that that has been entered in the form. If I just download that, you'll get an idea. It looks something like this. So this will have all the things that I've filled in. And we typically will email that to the customer as well for their records, as well as having it available at all times in the portal. If there was a payment made, then there's typically an invoice receipt, as I said before, that gets sent to the customer, and it might look something like this. That tells their fees, the fact there's $0 owing, so they know that's all paid. And any other files that get added by council. So you might upload an approval letter in the admin site, and then the customer will see it here as well. If that happens, you might email the customer with a link to this page so that they can come in and get to it any time. The bills and payments area is around any financial aspect of the application form, if there is one. So this one does have fees, so we can see the fees here. We can see that there's no money owing. There's an invoice that got created. There's another download link to it here, as well as being under attachments. And we can see the payment made by credit card and when it was made. So we know that there's no money owing. That's all good. History will show sort of an audit trail of events, so when it was created through different status changes, and it's also captured that I've uploaded that extra file. So it's visible to everyone what's happened when. And again, you've got sharing. So this one is still shared, but from the draft, but I could also add someone else, maybe with view permissions at this point, so they can see the submitted application and they can see the status, and the status changes that it goes through with council. And potentially you might also share it with someone and allow them to upload files after submission. Now what I'm going to do next is just jump into the admin site. You won't see this happening, but I'm going to open the file as a council processing officer, and I'm going to just complete my vetting of the application, which won't take a moment. And I am going to complete my vetting and say that it was accepted, which I've just done. And back here in the customer portal, if I refresh this page here, so you can see the status has changed to processing, and we've got an extra step in our summary. Also back in the open forms list, we can see it's changed to processing there as well. Now, the other thing I'm just going to do is I'm going to go into the admin site and add the fact that there's some extra money owing. So I'm just going to add an extra processing fee, so that for whatever reason, the customer owes some more money. And I have just done that now. So if I drill into this application and go to bills and payments, you can now see that there's $100 owing and there's a debit note. So we've We've added some extra fees. If I go down to the charges, there's my extra fee that I've just added. And now I have the option to pay now. So typically an email will have gone to the customer as well, but I can, through the portal and probably through a link in that email as well, I can end up in this form here where I can come in and I can pay for that extra $100 by credit card or debit card. I won't bother doing that just now, but you can see also on the card back in the top level open my forms, it shows quite clearly that that's got some money owing on it as well. Well, also, if I go into bills and payments, you'll see that there's that $100 will show there as an outstanding bill. It's due immediately, which it's gone into the due today, and it will also show as overdue once it's overdue. And any fees that the customer might owe might show in this view as well. So that's my forms. I could take this form into a completed state and it will go into closed, but I won't do that. Also on the dashboard, we show any three sort of upcoming bills. So when they first log in, if there's something that's due imminently, they'll see it there as well. And we've got a link here to see all bills and payments, which just goes to this bills and payments area. If there was nothing to pay in the card view, we've still always got these three links up here. There's pay an invoice, pay property rates, pay water bill. And in fact, if I wasn't even logged in, so I'll just log out, and then I go to bills and payments, you'll see those links are always there. So these are there to allow people to pay money to council, either for an invoice or for their rates or for their water bill. And depending on what it is, if I go to pay an invoice, I have to enter an account number and an invoice number, and then it'll go and check and show me the amount to pay and go through my payment. So because I'm not logged in, it doesn't know what my bills are, what invoices I owe. I have to identify what it is that I want to pay in this first step. Similarly with pay rates, you enter an address or a valuation number or an account number. So these options might change, they're configurable. You search for your particular address, find it, and then you can go to paying an amount in the second step. You do have to choose what amount you want to pay for rates. So for privacy reasons, we don't show how much is owing on a rates account because anyone can enter any address and see it. So it's up to the customer to know what they owe or what they want to pay and put that in on the second step. So I won't go through that. So that wraps up what I wanted to show in this second video. We've been through looking at the different things you can do under Do It Online, creating a draft form, submitting it, paying some money, seeing it move through different statuses, and doing some anonymous payments as well. So that's the main functionality of the portal. And we will pause there. Thank you very much.